welcome to another video. If you are coming at all recently from my Fires of Heaven vlog, you will notice that I am in the exact same outfit because I'm filming these things back to back. It took me so long to finish that one, and now we are here in this one. So this is the beginning of my reading vlog for Lord of Chaos by Robert Jordan, the 6th book in the Wheel of Time. I cannot believe I'm already on the 6th book. I even more can't believe that I'm not halfway through this series yet. 14 books, we're only on the 6th one. Wow, it has been a journey, and I'm still so amped up from talking about the Fires of Heaven, and Lord of Chaos is fresher in my mind. So, okay, I'm so excited to finally do this. And some things to note at the beginning: regular standard rules. If you've made it this far, I presume you've seen some of the others. No spoilers in the comments. I do turn on the feature for these videos that comments get moderated and held for review, and then every time one of those gets held, my boyfriend will review it because he has read the Wheel of Time series before and is rereading them with me. So he will see if there's spoilers in it and remove them. Spoilers count as anything that happens after Lord of Chaos. By the completion of this video, I'll have read Lord of Chaos, so events of that book won't be spoilers. And if you're in this video, hopefully you have read Lord of Chaos, because I will be giving you spoilers. This is my more or less in real time-ish kind of reactions to what I'm reading, some brief summaries of what I have read and how I felt about it, and me trying to just document this journey. It's always so much fun for me when I'm editing, even though it takes me forever, to see the things that I thought I knew at the beginning of a book and how later, when I finally get to editing a video, everything has changed. I like that. I think that's so much fun. So that's what I'm doing here today with this first installment. I have been reading Lord of Chaos for about a week and a half. Maybe it's up to 2 weeks now. I think it's probably at least 2 weeks now. It's been a little while. I recently started a new job. It has been hectic, so I'm not reading nearly as much. I basically spend all day reading and working and reading for work, because I'm a teacher, so I do a lot of grading and prep work and like designing lesson plans and things like that, and it's writing and reading a lot. And then I get home at the end of the day and my eyes are tired, so I have less stamina to read more at the end of the day. So my reading has been a lot slower, but it's taking me so long to film these that I'm actually quite a ways through Lord of Chaos, which is why I realized that I had to get caught up on these check-ins. So the first thing I want to do, like I do at the start of every one of these vlogs, is talk a little bit about the books themselves that we are reading from. So this is my boyfriend's copy of Lord of Chaos. It is one of the original art covers for the mass market paperback editions, and this one is so funny because look at this character. So this is Rand, and I think my boyfriend says that he is referred to as romance novel Rand. I mean, look at that. His shoulders, they're so wide. Why is this isn't what people look like. It was so funny, and it's also not how I imagine Rand at all. Now, I don't know how accurate my depiction of Rand is, but like I see him in my head as being really tall, fairly scrawny, like wiry, thin muscle kind of scrawny, and he's supposed to be tall as an ale. He has red hair, though I always forget to add that detail, because even though I know what Rand is supposed to look like, when I'm actually reading, I'm not imagining Rand as a character so much as I imagine myself more. Like, I put myself in the shoes of the main protagonist, and I have dark hair, so I like always am assuming that this character is having dark hair, and I know Rand has red hair. So anyway, he doesn't look anything like this, and my boyfriend has said that he imagines Rand as being way more muscular than I imagine him. Like, in my head, Rand is like fairly thin, but in his head, Rand is buffer. And in this picture, he looks nothing like either of us imagine him because of those shoulders. Like, those are Perrin shoulders. Perrin has been described as being super, super wide and buff because of his work as a blacksmith. And so it's just funny to me. But this is one of the original cover arts. I'm not sure who this is. I think my guess right now, yeah, I think my guess is Avienda, but I don't know. It's just because she's another girl with red hair. And I don't know what this thing is. But that's the cover. This book is old enough that only the first 12 books were out and like published when this edition came out. And it is what it is. Standard mass market paperback dimensions, you know, this type of book. This is my copy. This is the one I've been reading from most often. It is the newer mass market paperback edition, so it doesn't have any character art on it. It just has this background symbol for the wheel of time that moves across the page depending on the book you're on, and it has a red background with like matte silver foiling on it. I like this edition. It's really weirdly proportioned. It's like super thin and tall. If you take a look at them side by side, it's just much taller. And it's also weird. When I say standard mass market paperbacks, I mean things like this. This is my copy of Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. As you can see, it's the same height. But not these newer ones. And I say newer because they were still being published as of June 2020. So the new editions are now in boxed sets, in sets of 3. I have the first 2 box sets of 3. And I need to get the next one because we're going to finish this book and then start the next box set. It has 3 books in each, and then the last 2 books are coupled with the prequel, A New Spring. So that's what this edition is, and I like it. It's a little awkward to hold sometimes, so I have been occasionally reading from an ebook I got from my library, but it's fun. I like it, and I'm both enjoying this book, and also because I have been more tired in the evenings and like not wanting to read as much, or really just having the energy for like all the complex things that are happening in these books, I am almost excited and ready for things to slow down. So my boyfriend told me that this is the last book before what is usually known as the slog, which there's some debate about where that starts exactly, and some people love the books consistently all the way through, and you just really gotta adjust your expectations for them. Apparently the next few books are a lot slower, and I don't know if I'll live to regret this, but I am ready for things to slow down. Like, there has been so much happening and these books are so dense, and if things slowed it down for a while, that would be nice for me. And I'm trying to learn how to do hybrid learning mind, because there's like so many things I'm keeping up with during the day that it's hard for me to also keep up with all of this at night. So if the stakes are lower in the next few books, or at least the progression of the stakes, I don't think I'll be sad. But Lord of Chaos, this is where we are. So the prologue was super long. It took us a long time to get through the prologue because it's like 73 pages, and you see a lot of different points of view in it. I'm really excited for this because Perrin comes back. He's in the prologue actually, and I've missed Perrin. I've also been glad that he's been hanging out, because if he's just hanging out in the 2 rivers, he's not in danger, and that's fine by me. But we start this chapter with a Forsaken from the perspective of when the Forsakens demanded, yeah. And that there have been more Forsaken in this book than I think most of the other books. Like, we have seen their perspective a fair amount, and right now this is where we are. We just finished chapter 11 and are about to start chapter 12, and we're on page 308 out of like 1013. So we are almost a third of the way through, and there's been quite a bit of the Forsaken, which has been interesting to see what they're doing and their maneuvering, especially now that they are dwindling. Yeah, so that was interesting. And he is in the, like, what's it called? It's the evil place. He's near the boar, and he is he goes to get like a mission from the Dark One, and he is led there by this really weird, really tall Meadril called something Haran, Shaidar Haran. And that's weird because I don't think we've ever seen him before, and I don't know what his deal is, but he's a different type of Forsaken, and he's not Forsaken, a different type of Meadril, and he definitely seems to be in a higher place of power than most others, like almost respected by the Dark One. So he's a weird figure, and I don't know what we're going to see from him. Then we get more setup for things like Nynaeve. She is with the other Aes Sedai who have separated from the tower since Elaida came to power, and she's just hanging out. She has been using Mohidian to learn about the One Power, and that has been really kind of making her seem like she's stepped up her game as an accepted in the tower, because she's making a lot of discoveries and getting some respect for them. Lots of others also think that she has too big a head, because the Aes Sedai always think people have heads that are too big if they believe they can do anything at all. And that was kind of disappointing to me. I mean, not unexpected, but irritating. The fact that Elaine and Nynaeve have returned to be with full-blown Aes Sedai, and they are treated like they have no experience. And I really go back and forth on my feelings about that, because on the one hand, it's irritating, like super irritating to read about. And it's just hard, because I know that Nynaeve and Elaine, though I don't like them very much as people, I like them more recently, they do have some expertise. They have been thrown into the field, and they have learned a lot. Like, they know a lot. They are inherently powerful, and they can do a lot. And the Aes Sedai just don't care. They treat them like children because they aren't full Aes Sedai. On the other hand, it was mentioned, I think in the prologue or maybe later, Nynaeve makes her narration makes the comment that the power and Satan and Saidar are things that are so powerful and so potentially dangerous if you do not be very, very careful with them, that the training of the Aes Sedai is meant to be so rigorous that you don't ever take any part of that power for granted, and you are always super, super careful with it, because if you think even for a minute that you know something that you don't, you can hurt yourself and other people. So I understand that it's this field that has to be incredibly disciplined, but I think that the Aes Sedai can do that while also respecting each other a little more, or at least conveying that respect better. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to read about when they're being annoying. But she's hanging out with them, and then I think we see stuff from a parent's perspective as well. Oh yeah, there's this whole thing where Min is getting ready to be sent off with this like group of people from Saladar, I think is the name of this little place, pocket of Aes Sedai, to talk to Rand, because the Aes Sedai are having to pick a stance on whether they support the Dragon Reborn, because Rand is getting powerful, and if he's not on their side, he's going to be a problem, and if they are on his side, they need to make it clear. So we don't really know at this point what they're going to do about Rand, but she's being sent to kind of talk to him. But Min is into Rand, and Elaine is into Rand, and so they have this whole talk about like, it's just weird. They have this talk and they acknowledge that they're not going to let Rand come between them or whatever, and it seems like that's fine. It's like, oh yeah, you know, you've got your good friendship, but also on the other hand, it's like Rand hasn't had any input in this. They're like deciding how they're going to share him when it hasn't been made clear that Rand wants either of them. So that's just kind of irritating too, because it's like, what are you doing? But she goes off, and that's kind of where we start the book. And Perrin has become Lord of the Two Rivers, which I thought was wild, but he doesn't want to act like a lord. It's weird to him. But also, Perrin, get over it. He doesn't want to act like a lord, and so Fael has kind of been doing all the lordly duties because she did grow up as an aristocrat, and she's a little more well versed in the different responsibilities that they have now that they have been selected as a lord after the battle at the Two Rivers. And I knew this was gonna happen. That makes me sad that Perrin is thinking that he has to go back to Rand, because when it comes down to facing the Dark One, Rand, Mat, and Perrin consistently seem like they're going to be very important, and they're all going to be needed at that final battle. So now that things have cooled off in the Two Rivers, Perrin thinks that he needs to go support Rand. But that has consequences that are two-sided. One, he doesn't want Phil to get put in danger, and two, someone has to take care of the Two Rivers now, and with the Lord gone, Phil is like the lady that would be left over to maintain and run the Two Rivers. So I get it. It just makes me sad, because I love Phil and I love Perrin and I love seeing them together, and it seems like over the course of this book they're going to get separated for an indeterminate amount of time. What's happened? We see Margase again. She has taken refuge with a person. I always forget where Margase is, but she's not dead, which is what a lot of people believe. I think the craziest thing that happened though is at the very end. We see that two of the Forsaken who have previously been dead have been brought back. And at this point, I don't know who they are. When I was reading this, I was really tired. But they supposedly have the information to figure out who they are, so I have to think about that some more. And then if I don't figure it out, my boyfriend says I'm supposed to know who they are, so I'm not going to get told. So I have to figure it out or ask him. But that's wild, because I think 5 or 6 of the Forsaken have died, but now 2 got brought back somehow or other and are in new forms. Who knows what they're going to do? Basically, one of my biggest takeaways from Lord of Chaos is that the Forsaken are on the move, and I don't know what they're going to do. So that's concerning. In chapter 1, we get back to Rand, and we are shown kind of the situation he's got. He has been doing some cool stuff. He's learned how to travel, so he is based in Camelin, and people think that he's just in Camelin, and the events that are happening in Camelin are all they have to worry about. But he's also manipulating things in this really big scheme, and has like armies in lots of different places that he is monitoring, because he wants to take Samael down. So Samael is the Forsaken that's stationed in Ilion right now, and he wants to just get rid of him. But it's not clear yet how he's going to do that. He just hints a lot that he has a lot of pieces moving. And we also learn later in some of the Forsaken chapters that Samael is trying to not be a threat to Rand. So later we also learn about this thing. I don't remember what it's called, but basically the Dark One is going to have this second in command who's like right under him, and the most powerful you can be other than the Dark One. If he gets out and he wins like Tarmon Gaiden or whatever, those are his plans. And the Forsaken are fighting with each other to be that second in command. But it also kind of seems that maybe the Dark One wants Rand to be that second in command. It's unclear. And so they are not to kill him quite yet. And Samael has been trying to not be a threat to him, but he's a Forsaken, so Rand definitely thinks he's a threat and is trying to plan to get rid of him, which, you know, I'm all on board for. And I don't know what he's doing, but I'm excited to see it all play out, because one of the things that I have really appreciated over the course of these books is how much Rand has grown as like a strategist and as a leader. And I just think it's cool. It's cool to see that kind of development in a character. And it's sad because he is sad at how he's like not this boy from the Two Rivers anymore. He's he's conquered places since then, and he also has to make really hard decisions that seem heartless at times. Like in this first chapter, we see him take Madrim Tame. So he has, at the end of the Fires of Heaven, he made this whole amnesty for men who can channel, who typically get hunted down, killed, or gentled before they can hurt anyone. But now Rand is the only man who can channel, and he needs other people so that he can, one, maybe they can learn stuff from each other, two, they can fight and have some, like, so that Rand has people on his side who also have access to the One Power, because it's not clear that the Aes Sedai will support him. And if they don't, and they're incredibly outnumbered by Aes Sedai, Rand and his armies are going to have a really hard time. So he's trying to build people loyal to him who also have some control of the One Power. And Mazrim Taim is a false dragon that in books past was really causing some problems. He was rising an army and he got captured by Aes Sedai and then escaped. He comes to Rand and he's basically, Rand takes him to this farm where he has been collecting men who are willing to be tested to see if they can wield the One Power and contribute to this fight. And Mazrim Taim comes and he comes to test them because he actually knows how to test for whether people have the ability inborn or can be taught to channel, which Rand doesn't know how to do, or didn't until he met with Mazrim Taim. And that's all well and good, but it's also an intense thing to do. Men who channel go crazy and they can end up hurting themselves or other people. It is very dangerous. But Rand is trying to get as many people as possible and say whatever he needs to get them to submit to testing and to try to learn how to use the One Power, because he needs them for this fight. And that leads him to have all this like inner conflict, right? Because he doesn't want to send people on like death sentences and just use them for this fight because those are his purposes. On the other hand, much worse things will happen if he is not prepared. So it has been kind of sad to watch Rand wrestle with that, because I like seeing him making these decisions, but at the same time it's also sad that he can't be Rand from the Eye of the World. You know what I'm saying? But he just can't. The stakes are too high and someone has to do it. Then you get into the situation where he is starting to hear Lews Therin in his head, and it is very unclear if the Lews Therin in his head is an actual Lews Therin, like some figment of Lews Therin's original soul or body or something that is in Rand's head because he's the reincarnation of the dragon, or if Rand is going crazy because he's been using the One Power so much and it's going to drive him mad. We don't know what that's going to look like. Mazrim Taim has been wielding the power for like years and he seems fairly sane. So it's really, there's a long range for how long it takes someone using the One Power to succumb to its poisoning effects and go mad. Some people Mazrim Taim has worked with only lasted a couple of years. Rand is coming up on a couple of years, but Mazrim has been wielding it for like 10 plus or something. So it's really hard to predict what that path is going to look like, and I don't know what that's about. It does seem to be having a negative effect on Rand, because one of the gifts that Mazrim Taim brings so that Rand will trust him is one of the seals from the Dark One's prison, and there's this whole section where Rand is like lifting it above his head and saying that he needs to smash it, and those aren't his words, they're the Lews Therin in his head. Those are its words and its actions, but Rand is enacting them, and it definitely seems like a moment of madness on Rand's part, and it happens in front of a lot of other people. So I don't know how that's going to work. I'm getting worried about Rand, basically, is the summary of that whole shebang. And then Matt is out and he has one of Rand's armies, but I don't really know what he is meant to be doing. I basically read his chapter and was kind of confused, because Matt and the armies that he's leading are one of the pieces that Rand is manipulating in this big complicated scheme he's got going on to bring Samael down. So the jury's still out on that. I don't know what's happening. We get more of the Forsaken. It's a little unclear to me what they're trying to do. And then the Knave is out there. She's trying to learn how to heal severing. So Xuan Shanche and Lian have been cut off from the One Power after Elida took over the tower, and Nene thinks that can be healed, so she's trying to learn as much as she can about the wind power because she wants to be able to use it to heal, and she thinks that just about anything can be healed, even if people say that it can't be, which I admire her for. Like, I think that's pretty cool, even if I haven't really liked Nene very much at all in the past. She has really mellowed down since some of the events in the Fires of Heaven, when she got super beat up by a couple of people and also had that intense encounter with Mohikidian. Nynaeve has like toned it down. Like, I feel like she is way more acknowledging of the fact that she has a temper that doesn't make any sense, and that she does not know as much as she pretends to, or that at least other people can contribute to the world. And yeah, so she's toned it down a bit, and I have liked her more recently. But I admire her dedication to trying to see if severing can be healed, because I think it can be too. Like, I think it would be weird if we go through this whole book and that's not something that gets fixed, because it seems like a weird problem. Like, it doesn't make sense that it would be so permanent. And that, and the taint on Satan, I think that that's something that by the end of the series it's gonna get clean, because it seems really weird to me to start a series where you've got this evil, dirty world, and then at the end you don't clean it up, unless the Dark One wins, which I guess could happen. But if I spend 14 books watching a fight with the Dark One and then he just wins, I'll be so angry, because he could have won books ago. Like, I'm reading all of this because I hope that they can win somehow or other. So there is that. But that's basically what she's working on. Not much happens with her in that chapter, I don't believe. The White Cloaks are being annoying. They are trying to decide if they're going to move against Rand, and they are also trying to manipulate Margase because they want Andor to support them, when historically Andor has been very pro Aes Sedai, and the White Cloaks do not like Aes Sedai. They think that they are like evil magic users and aren't walking in the light, so they don't like them. And it would be a big move if Margase supported the White Cloaks instead. But Pedro Nile, the head of the White Cloaks, has been promising her support to get her throne back if she backs him up 100%. So that's up in the air. I don't like him. Not to mention the fact that we have evidence of so many dark friends in the Children of the Light. Like, they do not know what's going on. They go down so many bad paths and accuse everyone but the real dark friends of being dark friends. So they don't know what they're doing. But they could cause trouble. And then, oh my god, in these most recent couple of chapters, I got so angry. Like, most of this book I have been reading it and I've been like, this is interesting, not bad, and then this happened, and I read this last night, and so another reason why I decided that I had to finally catch up with these videos, because it was insane. Rand goes into the city to go follow a lead that there are 2 Aes Sedai that arrived in Camelin in the night, and he's going to see who they are and what they want. He ends up catching up with a lot of women from Iman's Field who came because they are traveling with the Aes Sedai because they have the potential to channel, and they are going to go learn. The Aes Sedai that end up coming are Alana and Varen, Alana and Varen, and they have been in the 2 rivers for a really long time. They were there for most of the Shadow Rising and through the Fires of Heaven, and now they're traveling with these girls to go train them to be Aes Sedai. That's perfectly well and good. And then, oh my god, Alana, she goes off with Varen and Rand to talk to him about what's going on, because they don't know a lot. Like, Rand knows more about Salidar and this offset of rebel Aes Sedai than they do. They didn't know that the tower had even split until they got to Whitebridge, which is quite a ways away from the 2 rivers, so they're like out of the loop. And then they get into this room, and Alana is like, oh, Rand, you look so tired, maybe you should be healed. And Rand is like, I don't know if I want you to touch me. And she's like, it'll be all right, just a little healing, right? And like, Moiraine has done this to him plenty of times. He's been healed by Aes Sedai plenty of times. He knows these Aes Sedai. So he lets her heal him, and she bonds him against his will. Oh my god, I was so angry. It is so invasive and it makes me feel yucky. Like reading about how later as he was trying to get farther and farther away from her, he could still feel her presence because of the bond, made me feel so yucky. They don't know each other that well. Rand did not agree to this, and now they're bound, and I don't even fully understand all the implications of that. Like, I don't know enough about how the bond works to know what this is gonna do to Rand and what it means. I hate it so much. It was the worst thing ever. I could not believe this happened, and for it to be such a random person. Like, Elaine has been talking forever about how she wants to bind Rand as a warder. Again, Elaine and her plotting about how she's going to keep Rand in some form or another doesn't take into account whether Rand wants her. But regardless, she has been going on and on about it, and it has bothered me because, again, Rand may not want to be bonded as a warder. I would doubt that he would choose that. He has so many other things that he has to take care of, and the bond between Aes Sedai and warder is intense. Like, the warder protects the Aes Sedai at basically all costs, and Rand cannot afford to have someone else's needs be above his duty as the Dragon Reborn. Like, what? If an Aes Sedai he's bound to is in danger and something else is happening that could turn the fate of, like, Tarmon Gaiden, like, he cannot be feeling the bond pulling him towards helping the Aes Sedai when he's got things to do. That is so dangerous. And so I was so angry, and it was the worst. I could not believe she did that. It was, and I didn't even finish my thought. At least Elaine, he has a relationship with Elaine, so if Elaine forced bonded him, he knows things about her. They know each other. I don't even know anything about Alana. She's just like been in the background, and boom, she bonded him. And then later we follow Varen's point of view, and Varen's point of view is all like sympathetic towards Alana because during the battle at the Two Rivers, one of her warders died and she's had a really hard time with it, but I don't care about her. So I was just even more angry that Varen's narration was all like, but Alana in sympathy, and I was like, but Alana needs to die because how dare she? So those were my feelings. They were intense. It was like the biggest thing to happen so far, and so it really was the first thing to make me feel like, wow, I need to come and do a vlog rant because I cannot believe that this has happened. So that's where I am. I think the last thing that I read was that Mazrim Taim finally convinced Rand to let him travel in order to actually go out in villages and actively recruit more men who can channel, because even though they've got a nice little collection, they really need a lot more, and just having people drift in voluntarily from wherever they're from isn't going to give them enough power quick enough. And Rand has so many things to do that he has to just do it, even though it's not really safe. I mean, one, Mazrim could decide to just leave, which would be bad because he's the teacher that Rand needs. Two, it's really concerning that Mazrim Taim is the one spending all the time with these male wielders of the One Power, because in theory he's building Rand an army, but because he has so much face time with these men, it's really easy for Mazrim to become the person that they're loyal to instead of the Dragon Reborn. And so I'm kind of afraid that by the end of all of this, it's super possible that Rand doesn't have his army. Mazrim Taim has built himself an army of men who can travel, and Mazrim Taim has not the most trustworthy. But at the same time, Rand is kind of backed into a corner and doesn't have any choice because he has other things to do. He has to talk with everyone. He has to go and plan all these battles and move his armies, and he can't do the day-to-day stuff of teaching these men how to channel. And Mazrim Taim is the only other man who is advanced enough with the One Power to teach them. So he has to just trust him with it, and it is so high risk. So I don't know what's gonna happen. I think this vlog entry thingy has gone on long enough. I think I've caught up to where I am in the books, and I don't know what any of my predictions are for this book. Like, the Lord of Chaos is the dark one. I'm expecting him to break out sometime. I don't know when. And I think that's it. So, okay, so this is another vlog update. You might hear some speaking in the background, and that is just inevitable because my boyfriend's on the phone and this is the only time I have to film this vlog update, and it needs to be filmed because the last time I updated, I was like a third of the way through Lord of Chaos, and now I'm almost 2/3 of the way through Lord of Chaos. So this is probably going to be my last opportunity to do a vlog update before I finish out this book. And there are some things we need to talk about. So first of all, I think that this book has been relatively slow so far. Like, not a ton is happening in every single thing. There's just like a lot simmering in the background that I'm waiting to like for it to come to fruition, right? Like, Rand has this complicated manipulation and army maneuvering that he's doing to push Samil out. Rand ultimately has been plotting to attack Samil. Okay, cool, that's fine. But then there's like, that's like the biggest plot. We've been following Rand for a super long time, and it's only recently that the point of view chapters have switched to Egwene, and Egwene has been up to some stuff. She was fairly absent the last 2 books, and so when she came back, I wasn't quite sure how to feel about it. I mean, historically, she's not my favorite character, but at the same time, she has not been quite as irritating as she has in the past. So for Egwene, she has been studying with the wise ones, but ever since she got injured by Lanfear at the end of the Fires of Heaven, she has kind of taken a back seat. She's not supposed to be in Teleron Riyadh, but she has been going there anyway because she cannot listen to people. And that's some high stakes rule breaking she's doing right there, because Amos has said that she will not teach Egwene how to walk in the dream world anymore if she learns that she has disobeyed any of her rules, right? So this is high stakes stuff that Egwene is doing. While she does all this, there's this whole situation where she falls into one of Gawain's dreams, and like he's dreaming about her and it's all romantic or whatever, and like he's telling her he loves her. And one, why? Oh, I don't like Egwene. But 2, it was super weird because I thought that there were way more stakes to falling into someone's dreams. Like, it has been described as if you go into someone's dreams, then you have the potential to lose yourself in the dream and you won't be able to tell that it's just a dream anymore. But you still wake up the next day completely unscathed. So I wasn't quite sure what the stakes were with that. I also wasn't sure if like when she's in the dream, maybe it's that because she's not one with the dream, if she gets hurt in the dream, then she would get hurt in real life too. I don't know. So like that was weird because it kind of felt like this high stakes moment, but then like nothing, there weren't consequences, except afterwards Egwene was just like, oh, you know, I might be in love with Gawain. And like, to be clear, I don't get that. I don't remember when Egwene and Gawain spent enough time in at all proximity to each other to have these strong feelings. But that's like a trend in so much of this world right now. So I don't know, maybe that's just the way things are. But that's going down, and then she is like almost about to be ready to enter the dream world again with permission. However, as soon as she does, she meets the Aes Sedai, and they tell her that she has to come to Saladar now. And she thinks she's in a lot of trouble because she's been masquerading as an Aes Sedai when she's not an Aes Sedai. And so she leaves with the wise ones and she admits everything to them. She tells them that she's not really an Aes Sedai. She tells them that she has been going to Teleron Riyadh when she said she wouldn't. And so one of the things that I did, like, earned her respect points from me is that 1, she owned up to all of those lies, and 2, she did it in an acknowledgement of the Ale culture. So she told them that now she has toe toward them and requested that they help her meet her toe, and that basically meant that they all took turns hitting her with a belt, which was intense, but it was like I don't know. I feel like Egwene was super, she just took ownership of her actions in that moment, and that made me respect her more because she admitted that she had done something wrong. And what really irritates me about Egwene, one of the things that has historically, is that she likes to act as though she's never wrong or she knows everything, especially as, I don't know, I've probably mentioned 17,000 times in these vlogs whenever she is in contact with Rand. Like, Rand's always an idiot when Egwene is talking to him and thinking about him, and it irritates me so much. But yeah, so I liked her for that. And the Ale and their system of toe and toe or something is like, it's super complicated, and there are some things that I think are kind of stretch in like the way that they deal with things that can give them toe. Like the way Avienda fled into a blizzard just so she wouldn't end up accruing toe towards Elaine in the event that, had things progressed as they eventually did, she would have ended up like sleeping with Rand, which she did, right? That kind of intense tie to honor around certain things that could be life-threatening, like the way the Ale are tied to their honor to the point where they would rather die than have it be all infringed upon, is intense. Like, that's hard for me to empathize with. At the same time, I also really think that their system is pretty cool. Like, I admire the Ale for their, like, the firmness of their beliefs and how it makes them a very strong people in most respects, right? There's this whole situation where like Rand told them about their true connection to the people who follow the way of the leaf, and that like broke them, right? So like, they're not perfect, but they definitely have a certain strength that's pretty cool. So also the system of toe, like, it is so, it only works if the people in it have strong character, because part of meeting your toe, like, no one's going to tell someone that they have done it or that they are, or what they have to do to meet it, because only they know the value of their honor and their toe. So it's super individual, and it's about you, like, one, reflecting enough on what you have done wrong in order to really decide what you need to do to make up for it. And so that type of ownership and that kind of accountability that they have for their actions is pretty cool. I think that it's interesting. And so seeing Egwene kind of as an outsider go in and try to be as respectful as possible towards that system of toe and like make it up to the wise ones for the lies that she told them, that was pretty nifty. So I enjoyed reading about that. And then she goes off into the realm of dreams physically in order to get to Saladar. Before we get to Saladar, Egwene and Gawain, they met in person again, fairly randomly, like neither planned it, but they were there. They bumped into each other, I think literally. And then suddenly they're like professing their love for each other like the same day. And it's Egwene who said it first, which, I don't know, I feel like I can admire her upfrontness, but I also still don't like the development of these love plots in general. The romances in the Wheel of Time are not the most developed in my mind. Most of them, they like seem to stem from nowhere. We don't get a ton of scenes with the characters together, so like it just doesn't make sense to where did this come from, you know what I mean? Like some of this is like either super insta lovey or super off screen, and I don't like either of those features. At the same time, it's not a romance. Like the fantasy series itself is not a romance, so it makes sense that they aren't going to spend a lot of time developing the romance plots, like tons of flowery scenes of the characters like being with each other. But still, it really sometimes feels super out of nowhere, like with Gawain and Elaine and Egwene. Nevertheless, she gets to Saladar, and the first thing they tell her is that she was chosen to be the Amerlin seat. they have been sitting on this decision for the new Amerlin seat for these like little Aes Sedai who left the tower forever. Or at least it feels like forever. I guess it's really been a book and a half. It was super wild too because Egwene got there super certain that she was going to get like rejected from the Aes Sedai because of her masquerading as an Aes Sedai. And so when she gets there and is greeted with such warmth and like excitement, like, oh, it's been so long, blah, 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 she is really confused. And when I was reading it, like, I mean, 2, 3, like half a page before we actually get told that she was chosen to be the Amerlin seat, that came to my mind. Like, I was reading and I was like, they're treating her with such like warmth, and I cannot think of any reason they would call her urgently unless there's something wild, like, haha, what if she were chosen for the Amerlin seat? And I was just like, that's dumb, that's impossible, where's that thought even coming from? Keep reading, Cielo. And so then I kept reading, that's what happened. And so I was like, what? Reaction I had upon reading that Egwene had been chosen as the Amerlin seat is what I often do when books overwhelm me, which is put them down and lay on the floor for several minutes. And oh my god, so this is wild, and like it feels out of place. And I talked forever yesterday when I read the ending of this chapter with my boyfriend about why the Aes Sedai would do this. And his justification for it is like, well, one, Siuan Sanche has been planting this seed in them since she got there. I think she suggested to them at some point that they needed to pick an Amerlin that they could control. And Egwene is young, so they view her as impressionable. She's still learning a lot, so like she can be manipulated. And Siuan Sanche knows that Egwene not only is not a Black Ajah member, but that she also has worked for her before, so Siuan can trust Egwene just enough so that if Egwene is the one who's the Amerlin seat, Siuan thinks that she can control her and maintain some aspect of power in the tower. Which, okay, but Egwene, all the people in this world, like all of the other accepted and other Aes Sedai, and Egwene is just such a bad choice. Like, not, and I have read Egwene as a character who like someday could be the Amerlin seat, but Egwene is like 20 years old and she's not even a full Aes Sedai. And yeah, she's powerful, but she definitely does not have enough experience in the world, like the culture of Aes Sedai, and she doesn't have enough experience with like politics or anything except being fairly powerful with the one power. And it just, it feels like such a bad decision. But at the same time, my boyfriend also said that the Aes Sedai are looking to make her a scapegoat because they have been super indecisive about like so many things, what to do with when it comes to Elaida, and either just like completely splitting or rebuilding the tower. And when it comes to Rand, what their stance on him is, are they going to support him, are they not, what does that look like? They have been super wishy-washy because they don't want to commit to a decision because they're scared. But if they make Egwene the Amerlin seat, then she can be their scapegoat, and if things go wrong, it's all her fault. And something that annoys me so much is that the Aes Sedai, for all their self-importance and all their brute power, they're kind of dumb and cowardly. And it irritates me that despite all of that, they still have this incredible arrogance. And like they have a reputation for being super like wise, and you just don't see it enough, or at least I don't see it enough. And I feel like they have been hiding in the tower on the tailcoats of like much better Aes Sedai from like the Age of Legends or something like that, when Aes Sedai were at the height of their power and their numbers. They might have had a lot going on, but the Aes Sedai we've got going on now have all that bravado and none of the skill for it. So they irritate me a lot. And yeah. In the same vein, Elaine and Nynaeve have been in Saladar for a while. Nynaeve keeps trying to undo her blocks, the thing that is keeping her such that she can only channel when she's angry. She's trying to get out of that habit so that she can channel at will. Yet, while like all of that's happening, she managed to heal Stilling. It's the coolest thing she's ever done, and even though Green annoys me in a lot of different ways, one of the things that I have admired about her is her dedication to healing and learning how to heal and not taking no for an answer when it comes to what is possible to heal. Like, everyone has told her that healing Stilling is impossible, it cannot happen, and she should just forget about it. But then she did it, so that was pretty cool. She healed Logain and then realized, wow, I just gave back a man who caused a war and many deaths his power. Oops. And like now he's under watch and shielded and all kinds of stuff. But then she also healed Swan Sancha and she healed Leanne, and that's wild. And she did it by like using weaves that no one would ever have thought to use before. And so that was pretty cool. That was wild. And it's one of the things that I felt like I knew would happen. Like, there are a couple of things in this magic system that make it less than perfect and less than like user-friendly, right? One is Stilling and the permanence of it. This idea that once you're severed, you cannot ever touch the power again. Seems like the kind of thing that by the end of a book would be fixed. It seems like a conflict or a problem. The second is the Taint on Satan. So if Stilling has been healed by now, I 100% expect that the Taint on Satan will get cleansed by the end of these 14 books. It would be ridiculous if we entered this world with this dirty, corrupted magic, and by the end of it, it's not cleansed. I'm really hoping that happens. Also, it's I'm still trying to, struggling to wrap my head around the way time works and what this wheel of time means, because it definitely implies some kind of cyclic repetition of events, but I still just cannot tell, what that means. Are literally the same events happening in the same ways? And then if so, is it with the same people or just their rebirths, like Lucer and Telamon and Rand al'Thor? Or is it the same types of events happen over and over, but then things can be changed? Or if something has previously happened in the wheel, it's going to happen again no matter what? If it's a wheel, does things that have happened in the past, do they affect things in the future? And then do those things in the future then affect what has to happen in the past? I don't know. Though what made me think about that is that we also had a conversation where Rand was talking to this guy who has been studying a lot in the library about the wheel. And he made this comment about how whatever the Dragon Reborn is going to do may or may not necessarily be a defeat of the Dark One, or even a conflict with him, or that conflict and that confrontation might not necessarily be Tarmangaidan, which is this big final battle, because all they know is that right now there's a boar in the Dark One's prison, and before the next turning of the wheel, that boar has to be whole again so that it can be broken again, so that enough time can pass that they will forget about that, the people of that time will forget about the boar and the hole and the prison enough to open it again, and then everything repeats. What? Why does that have to happen? So it's super weird. I don't know why. I'm just having trouble wrapping my head around that and how it fits with Rand and the rebirth thing that happens to certain heroes. And yeah. So we got Stilling healed, and then Rand has recently sent Matt to go get Elaine so that she can become Queen of Andor, which is fine. And Avienda went with Matt because she has to talk to Elaine, probably about something to do with Rand. And then we've got a lot of chapters with the Forsaken. They've gotten a lot of screen time, or book time, page time, words, I don't know. But they're moving. I'm just not sure what they're moving towards or what they're doing. Samael is like hiding in Ilion. He seems to be just trying to survive until Tarmangaidon. Like, he just wants to be one of the last Forsaken standing. And so to that end, he is trying to be fairly non-confrontational until he has to. So that's happening. I expect by the end of this book, Rand will probably take on Samael. And I'm not sure what else. Oh, we have Margase, who is currently with the Children of the Light, and they are like, she just signed over Andor, which is wild because the whole rest of the world thinks she's probably dead. So if Elaine makes it to Andor and becomes queen, does that treaty retroactively have effect? Did Elaine taking the seat as head of Andor mean that Margase lost her power when she signed that treaty? I don't know. But basically, Margase has given the Children of the Light permission to like base their soldiers in Andor, which is wild because historically speaking, Andor has never allowed foreign soldiers on their land, and they have supported the White Tower and Aes Sedai, which the Children of the Light are all about taking down. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but she did it so that they could lead their armies into Andor and reclaim her throne for her, which is dumb because she doesn't need reclaiming of her throne. Like, Rand didn't take it. You know what I'm saying? But they don't know that, and so much miscommunication here. I wish they had the internet, like text messaging, so that like a long time ago someone could have just texted Margase, hey, are you alive? And then she would have been like, yep, still ticking, and this would all be done. But they haven't, and they can't, and so people still think she's dead. And she's been partially hiding with the Children of the Light to like regroup and figure out her next steps, but also partially kind of being held captive until she signs this treaty. Like, they have not been very forthcoming. Like, they have not made it seem like they would easily let her leave if she chose to. So there is that. And I don't know, man. And then Perrin and Vale, they like, I haven't seen them in a while, so I don't know what's gonna happen. The last time I saw them, Perrin was like, I gotta go tomorrow to see Rand, but we haven't seen him since. I assume eventually he'll just appear with Rand. I don't trust Mazrim Taim. I still don't trust him. He hasn't done anything yet though. He's just building his school of men who can channel. I'm probably forgetting something, but I hit the big things that blew my mind recently, which was Ygritte is the Amarylline seat and Nynaeve healed Stilling. So I think I'm gonna leave this update there so that this vlog doesn't get too long, because they're already pretty long. So I will leave that there. I will next check in probably once I finish this book, and we'll move on from there. Okay, so I wanted to squeeze in one more vlog update before we finish this book, because look at this. I'm pretty sure that we're going to be able to finish tonight. I don't know, so many things have happened. I also realized after my last vlog update that I'm supposed to be including in here chapter ranges so that later when I'm editing the vlog and it gets posted, I can put timestamps, and I have not been doing that. So I think that the last time I updated, Egwene had just been Amarylline seat. Like, I just learned that she was going to be raised to the Amarylline seat. and I'm pretty sure that means that in this vlog, since the last time I have read, I'm talking about chapters 35 through 49. So I'm about to start chapter 50, but I haven't yet. So I think that's the range that we're dealing with here. So many things, so many things. So first of all, I feel like there are characters and relationships I appreciate more after spending more time with them and learning way more about them. For example, Fail and the Saldeans, I feel like even though I don't get some of their things, like it feels super contradictory, some of their gender dynamics, I get them more, and it explains past behavior and like the way Fail has responded to things in ways that didn't make sense. Now that I know more about the Saldeans after seeing them interact with Rand and then Fail and Perrin making their way over to Camelin and seeing those interactions, I feel like I have a better appreciation for the Saldeans, so that's pretty cool. And then I also have a better appreciation for Min as a character, because until now I have been so frustrated with her romance plot with Rand, and right before I started to learn more about Min and actually like her as a character, I finally justified it to myself, right? I realized that Rand is a Taviran, right? So the pattern bends around him in weird ways and sometimes inexplicable ways, and so with that kind of feature of the world and the magic system, it kind of makes sense that if Min is destined to love Rand, she would start developing these feelings for him independent of what other kind of relationships we have seen, whatever kind of relationship we've actually seen develop between them. The pattern is going to push her that way no matter what. And so then I was able to sympathize with her a little more. Like, I kind of saw where that relationship was coming from. But then Min actually makes it to Camelin. And Rand and Min have not been together since the Dragon Reborn. Min has been all over the place, and she has been traveling to Camelin for like this whole book almost. And she finally makes it there. And she's so funny. At this point, when they first meet, Rand made the comment that he doesn't see her as a woman, and what he meant by that was that she's just a friend. She's not like, he doesn't have to worry about like things being complicated between them. But Min, who is in love with Rand, was not happy with that description and has taken to flirting with him in a way to like get him to admit that she's actually very attractive. And it's just the silliest prank, because Min means it very seriously, because she is actually in love with Rand and wants him to be interested in her, whereas Rand thinks that she's pranking him and is like just being super silly and taking this joke almost too far. But she's his friend, so he's not like overly upset about it because he thinks their relationship is super casual. So that has been silly and very funny. But I also I like Min. Like, now that they have had any kind of extended page time, I do like Min. I just appreciate that she is there for Rand, right? I've said that before. I'm gonna keep saying it because Rand doesn't have a lot of friends. And right now, because he doesn't think he's going to fall in love with Min, he's also not overtly worried about protecting her. Like, he doesn't think she's going to get so close to him that she's going to be in danger in the same way he feels about Elaine and Avienda, so he's not pushing her away yet, which I like, because in his narration we get the sense that he's super comfortable with Min, and I like that because Rand's not super comfortable with anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are always tensions going on. He's always trying to prove to people that he's got things under control so that they can support him, so that he can do what he needs to do as the Dragon Reborn, and it is what it is. So Min and Rand, I'm more on board with it. Elaine and Anave, I have been liking them since like the Fires of Heaven. I have appreciated them more. I was like, you know, they still have their quirks, they still irritate me in some ways, but they've been better. You know, they haven't been so irritating. And Nynaeve in particular, I think, has grown a bit as a character. But then Matt, goes to Saladar to get Elaine because he wants to take her back to Andor so that she can get crowned queen. First of all, this is what everybody is saying. Like, everybody who's against Rand is so worried that he has just captured Andor, and they're like, Andor belongs to Elaine. And it's like, yeah, let him. Elaine's not there. What do you expect him to do? And Elaine is not coming willingly. So it's just like, and it's not even just the, like, it's not that the people are necessarily just being dumb. It's that there's like super slow communication and traveling when you don't have cars and the internet and cell phones and stuff. And so I get it. It's just frustrating every time someone is like, oh, if only that Dragon Reborn hadn't taken Andor, and the Trakan line is the true one, and blah 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 blah. How dare he try to take Andor for himself when that's not what he's doing. So that's frustrating. But he goes there to actually bring Elaine over because Rand is like, the time is now. We've got to get this settled because I am losing control of the nobles. Cool. Makes sense. Elaine not having it for reasons I can't comprehend because she feels like Andor is her rightful place. Like, she has been resentful. She was resentful of the idea that Rand would give her something that already belongs to her. So, like, what? But she's also avoiding it. Like, she's not going to Andor. She's like, no, I have to first travel all the way to Ebudar so that I can find this Terangriel. That's a little bowl thingy they think's gonna save the weather. And that's important. But it's not even like she's weighing two important things. Like, she doesn't seem at all concerned with when she's going to get to Andor, and that is frustrating because she's the queen, or she should be the queen. So like, she's all up in arms about Rand taking over Andor and trying to give her what's hers, but she's not going to take it. So I don't know what she wants from him or what anyone else does, really. And I think that's kind of my biggest, if I had to have one question for this, it would be, what do people want from Rand? Because it seems like they want all kinds of things that don't make sense or he's already doing, and for whatever reason they're not letting him do it. So that's frustrating. But what's even more frustrating is that when Matt gets there, Nynaeve and Elaine are the absolute worst to him. Like, instantly they become everything that I hated about them earlier in this series all over again. And it is so bad. They are the worst. They are the rudest. They're the most belittling. They just talk down to him. Nynaeve, like, avoids him for no reason. I mean, like, they had this whole confrontation when Matt first gets to Saladar because he did not believe they had really been raised to Aes Sedai, and he thought that they were just involved in this complicated scheme that was going to get them killed. And honestly, that's a reasonable assumption because they aren't nearly old enough to be Aes Sedai under typical, like, promotional timelines. You know what I'm saying? So, like, yeah, of course he'd be confused. But instead of just, like, explaining in more detail, they get all mad at him and are like, Matt, you're being so dumb. You think you know everything. And then, and Nynaeve actually kicks Matt. Like, kicks him, I think in the butt or the hip while he's sitting down, hard enough that he's limping. And so, understandably, he gets upset, right? And he like, stands and he approaches her threateningly, and then I don't remember what happens. They talk him down, basically. But, you know, that interaction happened, and ever since, Nynaeve has been avoiding him. And it's unclear why. Like, is that why? Is she afraid he's going to actually try to attack her? Because that's dumb. One, Matt has not proven himself to be, like, it's so uncharacteristic. Matt is not an unusually violent person in any context, but he's particularly not violent against women. Like, he's got that thing going on. So why does Nynaeve think he's going to suddenly attack her unprovoked? And if it was provoked, she deserves it. She has gotten into fistfights before with other women, twice in the Fires of Heaven. She can take it. She can brawl. I don't understand why she is doing this nonsense. It's irritating and annoying. If there's another reason that she's doing it, I don't know what it is yet. And so that has frustrated me. a lot. It might also be that she it doesn't even make sense to me that she would be doing this because she's afraid that because of his medallion she can't protect herself with the one power if he does attack her. Again, he has shown no further signs of just instantly attacking her. All right, she hit him first, but anyway, he hasn't done any of this. But even so, Nynaeve can fight with her fists because we've seen it happen. So I don't get it. I don't like her. But Elaine has been like so bad. And historically, like, I haven't liked Elaine's been fine. Between the two of them, I think I've liked Elaine more than I've liked Nynaeve on average. And then this, like, Matt gets there and she's the worst. She's the worst. Basically, it's just she just talks down to him, and Matt has described her previously, like before they have really been together for any lengthy duration. Matt has thought of her as haughty and like super arrogant and always looking down her nose at people, and I haven't seen that really. Like, yeah, Elaine can be a little arrogant, but not in a super unjustifiable way. Like, she's used to a certain amount of respect or whatever as the heir of Andor. She hasn't, I don't think, like, overly abused that notion until Matt gets here, and she's the worst. And she is intentionally ordering him about and telling him to do things that he was already going to do because they have to get done, and he knows that because he's not a moron. But she will tell him anyway to go do it, and because they have to get done, he can't say no. He was going to do it, but it seems as though he's doing it based on her orders, and that's super frustrating. And she has said to Nynaeve that she's doing it to get him in the habit of doing what she wants, so that when she needs to order him to do something he might not want to do, he gets used to just following her about. And I hate it. I hate it so much. And the only real explanation for all of this nonsense that I've been able to figure out in conversations with my boyfriend is that Nynaeve is used to seeing Matt as a child, right? She grew up with him, and she's always been older than him, so she's used to like taking care of him and disciplining him and whatever. So she only sees Matt as this troublemaking child, which he used to be, and he's still kind of got a little bit of a troublemaker streak in him. He's not completely changed, but he does have these memories from these old war generals, and so he's actually quite skilled, and he has earned his position as the general that he is right now. And they don't really see that, and they kind of think that he's just Rand's friend and that's why he's here, but he doesn't really deserve to be. And if they aren't like on him, things are going to go awry. Never mind that he saved them in Tyr. I think it was in Tyr. They definitely didn't appreciate that saving. They still don't. And now he's traveling with them just so that he can essentially be out of the way and also under their eyes. So like he doesn't go off doing anything that's going to get in the way of their plans. Justify it all you want. It's irritating and I don't like it. So they have been annoying me to no end. Rand is doing his best. Now Lews Theron voice is talking back to Rand, and so it's really just, I have absolutely no idea what to make of the Lews Theron voice. Like, I'm mostly convinced it's just Rand's sanity slipping and Lews Theron is not real. But this is a magic world of reincarnation and repeating time and a wheel and stuff, so I don't know. Maybe Lews Theron is real. He's definitely not helping Rand maintain his sanity, but maybe some part of him is real. I don't know where he's coming from, if he is real or what he's doing. So that's happening, and at this point Rand has been in conflict with Aes Sedai. So there have been two embassies. one from Elida, one from Saladar, who have gone to Rand, and they've just been kind of the worst. The Elida's embassy is trying to buy him, so they keep like giving him gifts or whatever, and like Rand has several countries he's trying to run, so he's not about to not accept their gold because people need food, so that's fine. But then you've got the Saladar embassy, who first of all, he set boundaries for them, especially after Alana bonded him without any kind of permission or consent, and so he has set certain rules for them. But then they started to get upset at that because one of the Aes Sedai got attacked by Ale in the streets. So admittedly, that's pretty suspicious, right? They think that Rand sent the Ale after them to like put them in their place because he doesn't have respect for Aes Sedai. Which, I mean, he kind of doesn't, but have they earned it, really? No, I don't think so. They're riding on the tailcoats of their Age of Legends, like, ancestors or whatever. Anyway, so they get really angry about it, and they go to confront him, but they don't even actually confront him about it. They just suddenly appear, and they're like, you know what? We're not going to do what you tell us to do anymore. You need to listen to us and respect us as we deserve. And they do their weird illusions that make them bigger than they are. And Rand is like, where is this coming from? What? But also, no. And so he like destroys their illusions and is like, the restrictions stand. And remember that you need to respect me as I deserve because I am the dragon reborn. And he like sends them away. And I don't know what the aftermath of that is going to be. I can't imagine that they're happy, but I don't know what they're going to do about it. And at the end, in one, I think it's the most recent thing I read. Yeah, basically, he also was extra angry that they had approached him like that because 2 more Aes Sedai had just arrived. And he recently got word that there are now 13 Aes Sedai in Caemlyn, and that's too much. That's a dangerous number. It is the maximum number that Aes Sedai can, what's it called? They can be linked to each other in order to maximize their power, and it's also like the number of Aes Sedai needed if they were Black Adra to turn him to the Dark One and like bind him to the Dark One forcefully. And so it's a super suspicious number, and it implies, from Rand's point of view, like they were going to attack. Like 13 is how they can maximize their attack potential, and if they're gathering as 13 Aes Sedai, then that's a problem. That's like an implicit threat. So he was extra angry about that, even though it was fairly coincidental. They weren't doing that. Just 2 of them had followed the trail of rumors to Caemlyn that like stuff was going down in Caemlyn, but still. So they're not happy about it, but the embassy is like falling apart because you've got the leader of the embassy who was sent there, who also encountered Varen and Alana, I believe. And Varen and Alana, they're coming in without having been sent, but Varen, I think, technically holds more weight among the Aes Sedai than the head of the embassy, and so the power dynamics there are super, super weird and uncertain. And then once this confrontation with Rand happens, it falls apart, and the main leader loses power, and suddenly they're off on different directions doing different things. But what came about during this conflict and when things finally came to a head was this idea that the Saladar Aes Sedai need Rand more than he needs them, because if he doesn't choose to side with them, he could very well choose to support Elida in the tower, and if he does that, they are over, right? Like, Rand has the backing of all his soldiers, he has his ability to channel, he has his school of men who can channel. If he supports Elida, they have almost no chance of reclaiming the White Tower, rebuilding it. They would have to submit to Elida or like fizzle away, basically. So they need him, and he can probably afford not to have them. They don't have enough power to really attack him, especially if he decides to support Elida, because then he'd have her and the Tower Aes Sedai backing him. And that was a wild realization, because it wasn't one I had come to, but I was kind of like, oh wow. It was also satisfying because they have been so arrogant, like the most infuriating ways. And so the idea, they don't believe that Rand can detect Saidar. When they have grasped the One Power, they don't think that he can actually sense it, even though he has told them he can tell, and he will be angry if they try to channel in his presence. They already know he can travel, which is a lost art that he, as far as they know, rediscovered. So why would they think that there aren't other things he knows? Like, they're super underestimating him because they're so arrogant. So that's frustrating, because they're just like, oh, he's just a man. 1, oh, he's just a man who can channel. 2, he must be going mad. 3, and he can't possibly be doing anything without the proper training. Never mind that they don't know anything really about Rand. So very frustrating. I hate them. They're the worst. Now, because they threatened him and they have 13 Aes Sedai, Rand fled to Cairhien. But not super fled. He invited them to follow him at their own time, and with a maximum of like 5 sisters if they wanted to continue negotiations and like talking to him. And then he took lots of people with him. Loyal is back. Love Loyal. Very excited that he is here again. And he's trying to get Mat or Perrin to go to Tyr, because he wants Samael to think that that is the real attack, whatever is bubbling up in Tyr. So Rand has still got something going on to attack Samael, and he said that if Perrin was agreed to go to Tyr, Perrin would be only the 4th man to know the whole plan. I don't even know the whole plan as the reader. So I'm hoping that in this last chunk of the book, the pieces of this plan that Rand has been building, and maybe if I spent more time reading than I have, or read closer, or took more notes, or like went back and looked, maybe there are things I could piece together. But right now, just the reading that I'm doing, which is, not super intense. It's fairly casual. I do read this, in the evenings after work, so I'm not here trying to do an in-depth study, but I don't really know how all these pieces are going to fall into place, or really that I know even what all the pieces are. I just know that Rand has been plotting to take Samael down, and I'm hoping that in the last bit of this book, we see that come to fruition. And then eventually, I guess Nynaeve and Elaine are going to find this bowl that they've been looking for a good chunk of the book. It feels super random. The bowl was super random because they found it in Tel'aran'rhiod, because if they wish enough in Tel'aran'rhiod, sometimes the realm can bring them to what they most need or something like that. And so this magic realm was like, hey, here's a bowl that might solve all your problems, and they were like, gotta go get that bowl. So that's pretty weird, just as a plot device. But they've been trying to go find it, and I guess they'll get it if something terrible doesn't happen to them first. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to say for this. When I come back, I'll have finished this book. Oh my goodness. I don't even know how long it's been since I not only did my last vlog update, but finished Lord of Chaos. It's been a while. I'm almost done with Crown of Swords, and I don't know. it's really weird to keep up with these vlogs while I'm working during the regular semester, because I do all of my YouTube stuff on the weekends. Basically, no YouTube stuff gets done during the regular week because I'm working. And if I come home from work and I don't have more work, then I'm tired from work, so I'm not doing more YouTube stuff. And this kind of lengthy talking and discussion type of video is exhausting when I spend all day talking and like working with students as a teacher. So here we are, some amount of weeks later, to wrap this vlog up, because if I don't wrap this up and start A Crown of Swords, then it's going to be a review video. So I'm going to try my best to wrap this up. Lord of Chaos was so wild. It was another book that had me just laying on the ground for, I don't know, 10-15 minutes after I finished reading it, because I was just like, what? Okay, so first and foremost, the stuff that happened, well, no, I'm gonna save the good stuff for last. Let's start with something that kind of irritated me a fair amount. Perrin and Fail. Okay, we learned a lot about Seldans in Lord of Chaos. Like, we see Fail's parents, and we learn a lot about what they expect of Perrin and things like that. And the Seldans they're an interesting people, right? We get the introduction that it's their custom that men have to be like incredibly like strong and forceful, because if they aren't, then there's the risk that the woman can be stronger than them. And if a woman's in a relationship with someone with whom she feels like she's stronger than him, one of two things is going to happen, according to the Seldans. One, she's just stronger the whole time, and she's resentful of his weakness and is like, ugh, why are you so weak? And that's not good. Or two, she will have to diminish herself and appear weaker so that he seems stronger, and that builds a different type of resentment because she has to hold herself back. So according to the Seldans, the only way for a happy relationship is for the woman to be able to be her true self is if the man is even like stronger. And when I say stronger, I'm talking about things like physically stronger, more forceful. Like the Seldans are super, like, I don't know how to explain it, but you got this background, right? And so at the end of Lord of Chaos, Fail is angry with Perrin. All right, she's jealous of Barrett and all kinds of stuff. And Perrin, he basically spends all of the end of Lord of Chaos being kind of dumb. And on the one hand, I don't agree with some of, like, I think some of the Seldan customs are like not, I don't know, they're not anything I would be like, that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, Perrin married her, right? Perrin married Fail. He knows what she's like, and he should make some efforts to understand her culture. So I really kind of put this a little more heavily on Perrin being dumb than Fail being unreasonable, even though I would say personally, I think she's being unreasonable. Like, if I were engaging with Fail, I would be like, why are you making this ridiculously hard? But Perrin should know. All right, Perrin has all the background information he needs to know that when he is avoiding Fail because she's angry at him, and when he is meekly apologizing to her, not certain what he's done wrong, and she gets even more angry at him, that he should have all the information he needs to know that in her culture, that's like so offensive, because he is bringing himself down, and she's kind of on the side of, wow, why are you being so weak right now? It's disgusting. And she's mad at him for it. So, like, I get that. And Perrin never does at the end of Lord of Chaos. Like, not at all. He is confused the whole time, and the only props they give him is that there's a point in time where he thinks to himself that he has never considered himself or claimed to be a smart man. And I was just like, yeah, Perrin, you're really not being the smartest right now, not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And that was just frustrating to me because the solution seemed so obvious. And it is, if you know anything about the Saldeans, and Perrin just didn't seem to be thinking about that at all. And there are other facets to look at that with, right? Like Perrin doesn't like being forced with Vale. He doesn't want to ever accidentally hurt her. That makes him uncomfortable, and he doesn't want anything to upset her because he loves her. All right, so like that's another thing that if we go at this at a different angle, right, Vale should be more understanding of, because she married Perrin and she knows that Perrin is a gentle soul. So like he's not going to start yelling at her in the middle of a fight, because that's not what he does. So really, both of them were being dumb. But I don't know, we never really saw Vale's perspective, so I spent my time frustrated with how Perrin seemed completely clueless when I don't think he should have been. Even if Vale also could have been expected to bend a little more with her expectations of Perrin. Ugh. Okay, so that was frustrating. But then the biggest other thing that I can think of for the end of Lord of Chaos. The Aes Sedai put Rand in a box. What? That was so sad and frustrating, because the whole time, like, it takes people days to realize that Rand is missing, because he wanders off on his own and he thinks that he doesn't need any help, and so people are just like, what? Haven't seen him in a while. He's just not here. That's fine. He wanders off. But he doesn't wander off this long. Like, people see Rand within a day or two, and I think it's a solid 3 maybe before anyone's like, wait a second, where is Rand? So it was very frustrating and it was very sad, and Rand is just in his little box and it's super uncomfortable, and the Aes Sedai who have taken him are being super violent, and they take him out of the box just to beat him because they want him to ultimately be submissive to them once they get him to the White Tower, so that they can control him, and he does what they want and doesn't like risk the world, at least according to what they expect to happen. So it was not cool. His only company is Lews Therin in his head, who I'm still not sure what that's about. We've gotten, like, I don't know, I feel like Lews Therin in his head is probably an effect of Satan and like the madness, but I don't know, like, he's so convincing. Lews Therin as something that could be real in a fantasy world of magic is so convincing. Like, he might really just be some actual apparition of Lews Therin Telamon. That being said, if Rand is Lews Therin Telamon reborn, then isn't Rand Lews Therin Telamon? Like, Lews Therin Telamon, whatever part of him exists in the pattern is now in Rand somewhere, even if they're slightly different people. That like Lews Therin energy has been turned into Rand. So it would be kind of weird if Lews Therin Telamon still existed outside of Rand, because he is Rand, if that makes sense. Which is like evidence for the fact that he's probably just Rand going crazy. But at the same time, it's like, well, Rand seems to know things that I'm not sure I know he'd know unless Lews Therin Telamon was a different entity from him. Whew, so I don't know what's going down with that, but basically eventually someone's like, oh hey, I think they took Rand. Let's go find him. And then they do, and it is just insane because Mazrim Taim shows up. He has been sketchy the whole book, and I just don't trust him. I don't trust him at all. I think that, I don't know. I don't know what his deal is, but he gets there, as well as Perrin and some wise ones and some Aes Sedai who are not with Elida, so the Saladar Aes Sedai. They all wind up where they're keeping Rand, and eventually Rand breaks free, and there's this like big battle at Dumais Wells. And then the Ashraman show up with Mazrim Taim, and first of all, Mazrim Taim is like, he's pushing some limits, okay? Because Rand gave him like pins to denote rank, and he is supposed to wear two, a little sword and a dragon, I think. And when he shows up, Mazrim Taim is not wearing either, and he has a coat with blue dragons on it. Blue dragons. That feels so like challenging, you know, because it's a brand symbol but a different color, kind of like, I don't know exactly how to interpret it, but I don't like it because one, no one wears dragons but Rand. He is the dragon reborn. But then if you're going to claim some dragons and you're also going to claim allegiance, then you would wear his colors, and Mazrim Taim doesn't wear his colors, he wears blue. So sketchy, don't like him. But he shows up with his Ashraman and they just destroy the ale, the Shido ale. Like, it's described as a meat grinder. Like, they make this force field situation around an area, and as the ale try to attack, they get like blown up. And it was gruesome, and it was gross, and it was wild, and it was insane because they're just so powerful, and they aren't bounded by like the 3 oaths like the Aes Sedai are. So they had so much power, and it's also kind of scary because yeah, they have all this power now, and regardless of whether they are more loyal to Rand or Mazrim Taim, eventually and at different rates, they're going to start to feel the taint of Satan, and they're so powerful and all they know is violence. So this is like a super dangerous situation because they, presumably as they start to unravel, you're going to have some of these Ashraman out there like blowing up villages for no reason. And so it's pretty scary. It was insane. It was intense. And then at the end though, it was so satisfying because the Aes Sedai have been so irritating this whole book. I mean, like the whole series, they're kind of the worst. They are way too self-important, and I've said this before, I'm sure, I'm going to say it again. It feels like they're riding on the tailcoats of the Aes Sedai from the Age of Legends. Like, they have this huge, important kind of reputation that they don't really deserve. Not most of these current Aes Sedai. Like, they know like some stuff, but not nearly as much as they have in the past. And they're kind of dumb. And they're super prideful, but to a fault. I feel like they just don't deserve it. And so, they capture and imprison the Aes Sedai who captured Rand, but then Rand orders the Saladar Aes Sedai to swear fealty to him, and that was so satisfying because they were so taken aback and they were like, "Excuse me, what?" But here, Mazrim Taim comes in and says something along the lines of like, "Kneel or you will be knelt." And it was so satisfying, and it was chilling, and it was so good because it was just like, they had no power, the Aes Sedai, right? The Ashraman just came in here and decimated so many of the Shido Ale. There are way more of them than this small enclave of Saladar Aes Sedai, and they need Rand to be on their side, because if Rand goes and supports Elida, then they can't possibly ever win. They can't ever reunite the White Tower. They can't ever like even really rejoin the White Tower. Like, they cannot fight against Rand, so they need him on their side. And Rand has made it very clear that he is not going to bow to them, so they really have no choice but to bow to him. And even if they decide not to at this point, because of all that he's been through, Rand is not going to trust another Aes Sedai an inch at all, half an inch, anything. And so they have to swear fealty to him, or he's just going to imprison them, and he's got all his Ashraman, and so like they have no choice. And so then they did it, And the last few lines of that chapter are so satisfying. I'm gonna find them. It says, on a day of fire and blood, a tattered banner waved above Demise Wells, bearing the ancient symbol of Aes Sedai. On a day of fire and blood and the one power, as prophecy had suggested, the unstained tower, broken, bent knee to the forgotten sign. The first 9 Aes Sedai swore fealty to the dragon reborn, and the world was changed forever. So good. So good. And then at the end, right, we get this weird epilogue that first covers Demandred. Well, first there was Phalion, who's doing something for Mokidian, and then we are with Herod. This was like, that was pretty sad. He died in like a, first of all, there's a lot happening in this epilogue, so I should slow down and talk about it some more, because now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, what? The last we heard from Herod, he was studying about the prophecies of the dragon and Tarmok Gaiden, and he had told Rand that he has something important to tell him. Like, he had discovered something, or he put something together, and Rand needed to know. And then he gets attacked by an animal that I'm pretty sure is like with the Dark One. So what does it the Dark One want Rand to know? That this guy had this information. I don't know. I don't know. And it blows my mind. Okay, and then next we are, I forget who this perspective is. There's another weird little perspective. But then Mokidian gets out. She gets freed by somebody, by Halima. By Halima, who is actually Agranar, who is actually one of the, well, first of all, I don't know if I've said this already, but at the beginning of Lord of Chaos, we saw that 2 Forsaken got brought back from the dead by the Dark One, and we are not told who they are. Supposedly, there's enough information there for you to figure it out. I could not figure it out, so I told my boyfriend not to tell me, but then he accidentally told me, because somewhere in the middle of the book, I was trying to figure out which Forsaken were alive and which weren't, and he was like, well, there are this many in power, and then he named, or no, this many dead, and he named so many that were dead, and then he forgot to name the 2 that had been brought back, because they technically aren't dead anymore, but as far as I knew, they were dead. And I was like, wait a second, what about those people? And he was like, oh, because those are the ones that got brought back. So I know who they are, and if you don't, and you don't want to know, then skip this part. But I don't even know their names. But the 2 Forsaken that died at the end of the Eye of the World, I forget their names. But the point I'm trying to make here is that it's one of them, and it's super wild, because even though at the end of the Eye of the World, this particular Forsaken was a man, when the Dark One brings him back, he puts him in the body of a woman. And so that's super wild, because he still has connection to Satan. Like, he's in the body of a woman, but he is, as far as the universe is concerned, like, still a man. And so he has access to Satan, and it has been confusing people, because like, people look at him and think he can't channel, because 1, he has the body of a woman, so they're expecting to be able to sense a connection to Sadar, but he doesn't have it because his connection is to Satan, and if you're sensing Sadar, then you cannot sense Satan. And so this magic is like hidden, because no one expects a woman to be channeling Satan. And then so yeah, anyway, he's been hiding out in Saladar, and then frees Mokidian. So that's wild, because it's like, oh my god, what's she gonna do? I don't know. So that was wild. And then at the very end, we see Demandred, right? We opened the book with Demandred in the Pit of Doom, talking to the Dark One, getting instructions from the Dark One. And at the very end, he says, have I not done well, Great Lord? And the Great Lord's laughter filled Demandred's head. that blew my mind. That had me going, whoa, whoa, whoa. He had done anything, right? Because we didn't see a lot of Demandred. We saw him talking to the Dark One, getting orders, and then at the very end, it's implied that he did something, like he carried out some kind of plot, but we never saw him. So where was he? And what was he doing? So I went back and I skimmed chapters by the Forsaken and tried to figure out any mention of Demandred. And there was one particular section where I think it was Graendal or someone says something along the lines of, oh, that stuff in the south smells of Demandred or something like that. And so then I was looking at the map, like, where is the south? Where are they? Like, what? I was so confused because I thought, wow, what was he up to? And then I had a theory. And what I'm about to talk about is, I don't know that it's a spoiler or not. So there are a couple of different cases where things get set up in the real time that do not get carried through as you might expect, or like they're interpreted by a large part of the readership differently than Robert Jordan intended, and so you can set yourself up for disappointment if you go reading with certain ideas. And I have given my boyfriend the go-ahead to tell me when those things come up, because I don't want to read a whole 14-book series expecting one set of things to happen and then just be sad because that's not what happened and the writer never intended for them to happen, but I saw something in what he had written, right? One example that we've already seen is Asmodean's death, right? That doesn't actually become a major plot point, even though at the end of For the Fires of Heaven it feels super like flabbergasting, like what? It feels like a really big thing, and then it doesn't actually become that big of a thing. Something similar happens here, and so if you don't want to know about it, because it's like not technically a spoiler in the sense that what I'm going to talk about doesn't happen, but it's also kind of a spoiler because if you think it's going to happen and then I tell you it doesn't, then you know it's not going to happen. But I wanted to know if I was completely wrong, because then I was going to be misreading everything. So I did all of this research into Demandred. I spent like 15 minutes paging through my book trying to piece this together and almost not wanting to suggest the thought that was in my head because it felt kind of dumb, but also so right. Like it would have been so cool. And that is, what if Mazrim Taim is Demandred? That theory I worked on for a solid 15 minutes because Mazrim Taim and the army was around the southern part of the continent, and Mazrim Taim has super strong, very powerful connection to Sadar. Mazrim Taim has been channeling for like 15 years, but he, as far as we can tell, has not gone crazy or been touched by the taint too much. So somehow he's holding on, and the Forsaken are protected from the taint because they are in connection with the Dark One, and something about their bond protects them from that stain. And so then I was like, wow. And he had done something big at the end of this prologue. It was implied that he had done something big, and Mazrim Taim comes in with his Ashraman and he like blows things up, and he is building an army. So what a wild time it would have been if Mazrim Taim was Demandred, who also resists Rand's leadership. Like Mazrim Taim has been doing the things that Rand tells him to, but in like kind of a sassy way, and he has not been quite as like submissive as I would have expected. If he were like super on Rand's side, he'd just be like, oh yeah, Rand, let's go. But no, he doesn't do that. He is way more, he fights for every bit of power he can hold himself. So all of that like super made me feel like Demandred and Mazrim Taim were the same person. And I shared this idea with my boyfriend, and he was like, well, that's definitely what it seems like in this book. However, by the end of the series, that is not what happens. And in this book, there is evidence that when this was being written, Robert Jordan intended Mazrim and Demandred to be the same person, but then changed his mind. And so there is a lot of evidence in this book that they're the same person, but then no more in the future books, because he built it up in this book and then changed his mind. So you don't see those similarities as much. And there are other things I didn't even notice that he shared with me, like Demandred and Mazrim, their physical descriptions are supposed to be super similar. Also, Lord of Chaos. I don't even know who the Lord of Chaos is. I forgot. I have not sat down to talk to my boyfriend about who the Lord of Chaos could be. But Lord of Chaos, wouldn't it have been cool if that was referring to Demandred, because he had infiltrated Rand's army as another person and was causing chaos, because you think he's on Rand's side, but who knows what else he's doing in the background, and who knows what consequences these Ashraman and the Demise Whales might have that was in some part aided by Demandred and Mazrim. What a prank that would have been. It was so beautiful, and it's not what happens, and I have faith that whatever does happen is still good. But I was kind of disappointed because I thought it was such a good theory, and based on this information, you know, it's pretty solid, but it's not real. So I had to let that one go. But wow. So Lord of Chaos was super good. I think so far my favorite book of the series up to this point is still The Fires of Heaven. I loved The Fires of Heaven. It was so good. But this was also super solid, and I really, really liked it. The ending was super good. So good. I'm sure there are things I'm forgetting because it's been weeks, but this vlog is long enough, and I think that I will end this here. The next vlog you see me, I will be in this exact same weird outfit I have thrown together, because I'm going to film the opening of A Crown of Swords right after this. I am also done with my second box set, The Wheel of Time. So it's bittersweet, but also super cool. Alright, so that's it for this vlog. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.